Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be exploring aux sends out of Logic Pro here. The last time I did a live mixing session, I had some questions about why I was doing what I was doing, and one of the things I really didn't cover in that session was how to make use of your aux sends. Now, one of the interesting things about aux sends is understanding their usefulness and basically their purpose. If you look at the back of, say, an audio interface or a mixer, you'll see FX loops where you send out to an external unit and it comes right back into the channel. But when it comes to an aux send, there's kind of another analogy I want to set you on so that you can kind of think of how you might use them to better your mix. In this case, what we're going to be doing is trying to add some ambiance to our mix. Now, what do I mean by that? If you were in a perfect recording studio environment, everything would be really, really dry because it was all recorded either separately or in isolation. And it's not going to sound very realistic. It's going to sound sort of incredibly dull because nothing has any of the mixing of the sounds, which is why a lot of people add reverb to their mix to give it a little bit of warmth and a little bit of that sort of live sound. Now, we could put a reverb on every single channel, but that would kind of sound artificial because the reverbs are not interacting with each other, meaning you're just going to hear a sound with reverb on it mixed with a sound with a different reverb on it, because if you don't run them through the same reverb in the same way, it's not the sound of all of them together, it's the sound of each channel individually, which is what we're trying to get rid of. So when we're setting up our mix, the first thing we want to do is set all of our levels, and we want to get our panning done, because the analogy I want to use for you is much like a live sound mixing situation. So let's imagine for a second we're at a concert. We're sitting in the audience in the ideal spot. The band is right in front of us on stage, and there's a speaker on the left and the right that's sort of helping amplify the acoustic sound of the band. Now, in a sense, when we do a recording, what we record is the sound of the speakers on the stage, and the ambient sound that we're trying to increase in our recording is the acoustic sound of the band just performing. So this is where our aux sends come in. A really healthy way of thinking about this is when we create a reverb for all of our channels and send it off, we're going to have a separation. We're going to have the speaker sounds of our live performance and then the band sound. And the band sound is going to be represented by our aux send. Now, if we were to imagine that this concert venue was an anechoic chamber, meaning absolutely no reverb, no reflections, we would basically get two versions of the exact same signal, which is what a aux send would sound like if it was totally dry. Because when we send all the channels to that aux channel, it basically is making a second master bus that then's fed into the main master bus, and so you're just getting a duplicate signal. But because that's not the way the world really works, what we're going to do is we're going to put a reverb on that channel so that when it is fed into the actual master bus, it's adding a layer of reverb and ambient sound to the perfect mix that we're coming through in our main channels. Now, because of this, we want to mix our reverb channel sort of independently of our regular faders, because what we want to do is we want to have a nice acoustic mix of all of our sound sources that are going into that reverb channel, and we want to mix it so that it sounds just the way we want it, and then we're going to turn it up or down to decide how much mix we want. Basically, another way of thinking about this is if you were to have thrown two room mics up in this auditorium and recorded the band completely acoustically, this is basically the sound we're trying to duplicate. And when we mix the speaker sounds of our live stage together with our acoustic sound of our band, then we're going to get a nice ambient sound that's going to sound like it has a lot of presence, and it's going to sound like it is tied together much better. So let's see how this works in practice. So here I have pulled up a mixing session of a live performance I did. Now, this isn't a perfect analogy, but because a lot of these instruments were direct line in, say the keyboard and the bass, there's not a lot of bleed in these channels, so they sound kind of dry in the grand scheme of things. Now for comparison, in this particular setting, I also did an actual room mic, so we can kind of compare how the ambient we create through the reverb compares to the actual acoustic ambience we could get by just turning up the room mics. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take all of our acoustic sound sources and we are going to send them to an aux bus. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight all of these channels, and then down here under my sends, I'm going to go ahead and assign them to a bus. Now in most DAWs, the buses are going to be stereo to match your output, and by default, most of them are going to send automatically to your master bus when they're done. And this is an important distinction between a channel effect like I have here and this aux send, because this aux send actually sends to our master bus separately of the faders down here. What that means is I could actually create an entire mix using our aux sends, and I could mute everything else and we would still hear our sound. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw on my headphones and I'm going to take a quick listen to the sound of my mix. Okay, now that we have the mix sounding the way we want, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and set up our aux bus. Now, when we do this, we're actually going to mix it very similarly to the way we set up our original mix. And you can see that I have all my pans in place and I have my faders set pretty well. And so what I'm going to do here in Logic is up here under sends and fades, I'm actually going to turn my faders into the bus sends so that I don't have to use the little wheel to set these levels. And as you can see right now, everything is set to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do kind of a live mix like I would for my main bus by just turning up each individual channel until I'm pretty satisfied with how it comes out. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solo my aux bus because I only want to hear the sounds coming through the aux bus because I'm trying to set up a real natural mix in the bus, not just with the sounds that are included in my master. Okay, great. So now you can hear that my main mix and my aux mix are basically similar because I want the ambient sound that I'm getting from my aux channel to complement the mix that I already have. I don't want to make the sax stick out extra hard or make the bass extra loud. I just want to bring it up. Again, in that analogy, this is the live band sound that I'm hearing in the audience. So once I have set an appropriate mix level, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw on a reverb on that channel. Now you could use pretty much any reverb you want. I'm going to go ahead and use this Quantec room simulator that's included with the Logic Pro suite, and I'm just going to use this one as an example. Now if you have a favorite reverb, all of this would be normal because I'm really not showing you exactly how to tune your reverb so much as use it to affect your room. Now there's two things to think about though when you're doing this. One is Do you want your reverb to be total reverb sound, meaning it's going to be 100% wet, and then you're going to go ahead and use the regular mix as the dry signal? Or are you going to have this kind of a 50-50 where you're going to bring forward just a little bit of your dry signal with the wet signal? I will say in this particular case, it's a little bit difficult if you have too much dry in this aux, because any amount of dry signal is actually going to turn up the dry signal of your regular mix. So you have to be a little careful. So in this particular case, I'd probably err on the side of having a little wetter mix in your reverb, but we still want it to sound musical. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. Great. So now I have a nice wet signal that really adds a lot of ambience. And now what I can do is start mixing it in with my dry signal to create an ambient sound. So what I'm going to do now that I have kind of happy with this is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unsolo that channel, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it all the way down to nothing because I want to listen to it in relation to my dry signal, and then just slowly turn it up until I'm satisfied with how both of them interact. So do you hear how it adds an awful lot of warm sound to the mix, and it keeps everything feeling very rich and full? So this is some of the benefit of doing it this way, because now we can compare this to what it would sound like if I just turned up, say, the room mics that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute my aux send, and I'm going to turn up these two room mics, and we're going to see how that sounds by comparison. Now, it's a close call. I do have to admit, I feel like the room mics have a little too much sax in them, so it would be hard to EQ that down or level it out, but by the same token, it has kind of a brilliance to it that I do really like. The other nice thing about doing this aux send is we could treat it like any other master bus, and we can throw EQ, compression, or anything else on it to make that signal sound exactly the way we want so that we get kind of the sound we're looking for. Now, there's one other layer we can think about when it comes to these aux sends, and that is how the aux send is sent. So you can see right now I have it on post pan, but you can also set it to post fader or pre-fader. What these different modes mean is it's kind of deciding at what point in the signal chain is it going to grab it out and send it off to the aux channel. And some of the reasons why you might think about this is if you're going to do a lot of automated movements in your faders, you may want to send it pre-fader so that any adjustments you make to your faders in your regular mix don't affect your aux sends. Now again, you could do this in several different layers. You could use this to add an artificial reverb sound if you wanted sort of like, hey, we're in the bathroom during this little section of the song and we want a really bouncy, ugly reverb. And you can use it in a lot of different ways, including things like what we call parallel compression, which is we're going to compress the signal separate of the dry signal so we can get a different kind of acoustic quality that we can then mix back into the full mix. Now again, remember, this channel is now independent of your regular mix. So as you turn up and down your regular mix over here, it will not affect this one as much, meaning that if we want to change our mix of our reverb channel, we will have to go in and change those faders separately. Now in a lot of DAWs, you're going to make those adjustments using the little wheels here next to each one of them, which is just fine, but I do like this feature in Logic where you can assign the faders so that you can really fine-tune what you're doing. Well, thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you have any questions or comments on this video. Again, this is not the absolute end-all be-all of using an aux bus in your mix, but it is a great way of understanding what we're trying to do when we're trying to add ambient reverb and make our mix sound just a little bit more whole with a little bit more body. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.